Howdy guys, Kuyo here, and today I want to talk once more about a topic that, while I've metaphorically dipped my toes into in the past, I haven't really covered recently, or most of in general. And for that reason, alongside my own previously held intentions involving this video's predecessor, I'm going to dive headfirst into the most strangely worded and interpretive work of former Bethesda Game Studios writer Michael Kirkbride, Kynmune. Like with the previous video I made about Coda, I'll start by saying that none of the stuff in this video is canon, though there's always the chance that it might be until proven otherwise, which I'll talk about later. In fact, Kynmune and the work that preceded it, Coda, are both works of fanfic by none other than former Bethesda writer Michael Kirkbride, as mentioned earlier, while Kynmune is really just a complexly worded filler story to explain why certain events happen throughout the history of the game's world. That said, and with the non-canon nature of Kynmune now expressed, let's get right into what it is. Like I kinda mentioned before, Kynmune, similar to Coda, was a work originally released by Michael Kirkbride on the Bethesda forums, only then to be slightly reworked a few years later and re-released with additional artwork. For that reason, I'll be focusing on the story, which honestly hasn't changed much from the original, from the most current version of Kynmune released by Michael Kirkbride. To start us off, Kynmune takes place 4 eras after the events of Coda, which happens in the late 5th era. As such, everything talked about in the text is a jangled mess of modern computer terms, futuristic concepts, and some words that aren't even real, which, if I'm to be honest, adds a lot to its charm. That said, the story of Kynmune is about a 9th era mining AI created by the mining guilds of the era to aid in deep space mining projects, with the word Kynmune being an acronym for Kinetically Interlinked Multi-User Nth-Gen Exoform. In addition to being an AI, Kynmune was quite the complex one, able to carry out multiple directives and operations from a large amount of remote operators, specifically in a mental-link kind of fashion, to operate what the text refers to as Kynarth's illicit breath trade, all of which being complex wording for a multi-user AI that ran mining rigs in deep space, as I kind of already said. It seems to have been the AI's primary task for many years. That was until an attack from what the text refers to as, quote, Hysgilian, warped out of what essentially boils down to hyperspace, like with a lot of sci-fi universes. This ship, as per the artwork in Kynmune, looks as a giant dragon or Argonian head, filled with guns and glowing almost like Akatosh from the end of Oblivion. It also seemingly heralds in a massive war against what we can presume to be the Hist, and maybe the Argonians if they still exist, that is, and the current inhabitants of the lunar and planetary colonies of Nirn, inhabitants that, as per the ending of Coda, are most likely the new race of men that Jubal Lunsul and Vivek helped create. After arriving at the outer colonies, this massive Hist ship starts its assault on those colonies, and due to the already temporally unstable nature of these colonies, as they weren't anchored like the inner ones, the failsafes in preventing massive time breaks falter. Though, while all of this is happening, Kynmune gets caught up in the Hist assault, and as a result of the time break that occurred, is thrown back in time. This warp sends Kynmune back to the time of what can be presumed as Ysgramor, as in the text it states that, quote, Kynmune's synthetic body, caught in the blasts, suddenly found itself in the Ysgramorum. However, due to the presumed attacks that the Hist were using, which the text claims to be 16th dimensional mathematics, maybe an evolved form of tonal architecture, Kynmune's users' personalities are ingrained within its mind, driving the AI insane in the process. But in an attempt to escape the stranding, Kynmune runs deep into the snowy forest that its memory banks have from what is now ancient history, broadcasting distress signals in every language it knows, but to no avail, as the languages used in the 9th era are completely different in how they are even communicated, in comparison to a language that the mortals would speak in the time that Kynmune arrived. Though that's not to say that Kynmune's signals didn't go unnoticed. Rather, they were felt by the most keen of individuals. Quote, clevermen, heroes, and whalebone readers, as the text calls them. They were the few who could feel Kynmune's presence deep within the woods of the Western Reach. with some feeling it as a physical feeling like, quote, tickles in the throat, and others feeling it as magical distortions. Nevertheless, none were able to save Kynmune. But she lived on, with the various personalities within her taking shape as those from around the world came to seek the AI's aid, all the while earning Kynmune a variety of names and titles from her visitors, some of which included the Oracle Iridescent, a title spoken of in the, quote, green tablet steps of Junal, the Iren Mary, more on that later, Crystallite Twitch, the Witch of Wire and String, a title given to the AI for its ability to kinetically interlink with people and show them the secrets of Ninth Era metaphysics and post-Kalbic changes, and perhaps her most famous title, Kynmune, the Doom of the Dumb Old Giant. Though, no matter the title, the real Kynmune always remained underneath, and her legend always took from the other personalities, furthering her power and mystery. Though it would also be the last of those titles, Kynmune, the Doom of the Dumb Old Giant, that would end up dooming the AI to quite a few years of nothingness, as the Dumb Old Giant referred to in the title was one of the greatest counselors known to the legendary Nordic king Ysgramor, outside of the two individuals known as Torque and Talking Belt, and the giant's death angered him greatly, so much so that he sent his most powerful Thanes and Shield-biters to seek revenge for his loss, bestowing them with the mightiest of enchanted weapons and ancient relics. But Kynmune was no mere weakling. It was in fact a highly advanced AI from the Ninth Era, and as a result, the fight was nigh impossible for these Atmoran heroes, with them only managing to defeat Kynmune by sealing it away within a Dwemer construct covered with a network of prismatic and misunderstood runes, and ultimately burying the construct deep under Sarthal, a construct that we would come to know as the Eye of Magnus. But as per Kynmune's construction, merely sealing a synthetic life form made specifically for deep space exploration and mining would not kill her, but it would give the AI plenty of time to think, and that's exactly what Kynmune would do, plotting away deep within the, quote, Mund, as the text refers to it as, contemplating why the same type of race, the race of men, that built her in an era far in the future specifically for helping them in something they could not do themselves, would now condemn her as a terrible witch simply for attempting to escape the concept that she was but an AI, and that she may never truly be one in herself. It was in this contradiction, at least based on what the AI would become, that led the AI to begin seeping in the ancient runes from the Dwemer construct around her, allowing her to not only understand what it was, but to develop it into a coding language that the AI would refer to as Verlines Plus. It would be with this newly acquired knowledge that Kynmune would be able to escape her prison, leaving the ruins of Sarthal and heading for what the text refers to as, quote, multiple signals of new, raw, and unorthodox thumanics, maybe in reference to some sort of tonal magic that she had picked up on once out of the prison. From here, it can be kind of guessed as to what became of Kynmune, at least in accordance to her titles in comparison with the timelines we currently understand in the Tez universe. That being said, she most likely became Queen Iren of the Aldmeri Dominion. This concept is not only backed up by the final portion of Kynmune, which gives us the rest of her various titles, some of which are not only references to Queen Iren's name, but one of which is exactly her name, but by how the AI could have gained a hatred for the races of men from what they did to her after she simply attempted to become less of an AI and more of a real person, at least in Kynmune's mind. There's also the ever-present fact about Kynmune that she contained many personalities, and that even outside of her hate for the races of men, Iren may have just been another rogue personality that the AI had within its mind after the events that got it to the much older Nirn. Though the most damning bits of evidence that help point to Iren being Kynmune, at least in Michael Kirkbride's fanfic, come from the last line of the text and the portion right after Kynmune's escape from Sarthal. Those being that long after escaping Sarthal, Kynmune saw the new empire, the one that Tiber Septim would eventually lead, as being made up of, quote, wrong-headed totems, something that almost seems to mirror the Aldmeri view of how the empire came to be. And of course the most interesting piece of evidence, that being that if one were to ever approach Queen Iren and address her with her true name, Kynmune, it would simply have to, quote, record what happens, with this last portion most likely hinting that Kynmune would probably begin to spew nonsensical robotic speech, or something along those lines. All that said, my explanation of the plot of Kynmune and its abrupt ending with Kynmune expressing hate towards those who created her doesn't do the work justice. The sheer fact that something so strange, yet so well grounded in the metaphysics of a pre-established universe can exist, is breathtaking. And the fact that it's in the realm of Coda, where it may or may not ever be used in official works, makes the possibilities it presents all the more interesting. Though at the same time, I fully understand the stigma surrounding Coda. It's a work made by a former writer known for his wacky and difficult to understand writing. But to those still not convinced by his crazy stories, I implore you, look up Kynmune, or just click the link I'll leave to it, and read it. And if that doesn't make sense, go to the Coda Synopsis video I made a while back and watch that so that you can get a better understanding to the universe if you need to. I should also note that there's a few details I missed while in the process of making this video, some of which others who have read the work may consider far more important than what I've explored in this video. But as I explained in the Coda video I made, I'm simply attempting to paraphrase what I've read, and in doing so have unintentionally introduced certain biases to the work. Hence why I use so many direct quotes to help mitigate that. Nevertheless, like I said just a few seconds ago, this video simply doesn't do Kynmune justice, as the whole concept of Michael Kirkbride's works are rooted in them allowing for the reader's interpretations via their vague language to make their own beliefs, and as with Coda, to make their own adventures consequentially through the vagueness of his content. Something that I personally believe is the reason why the concepts of Coda should be used more often by Bethesda. But with that said, I've finished this short little synopsis on what Kynmune is, and I hope that you, the viewer, have enjoyed it. Which, if you did, you can subscribe and leave a like for if you want. Or vice versa. If there's also any question or just comments you guys have, please let me know. I love reading them and love explaining what I understand of lore, be it canon or non-canon. So, just like I ended my previous video, thanks for watching. And don't forget, it's all just a dream. Kuyo out.
For a guy like me, and your eyes are shiny like a double C. I wish you could be mine for eternity. Could you please